I'm saying is I like that jacket, and I'm sorry that it got shredded. What the hell are we... Wait a minute. I'm back here? You've got to be shitting me. Let me guess, it's right over... Of course it is. Of course it is. Why shouldn't we go in a complete circle? All right, let's get on with it. Well... Well, we all knew this was coming, so let's get on with it. As mentioned in the last video, 2019 was Scooby-Doo's 50th anniversary, and the second of 2 direct-to-video movies scheduled for release that year was going to serve as a sequel to Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, which by this point had become one of the most beloved Scooby projects in the 21 years since its release. The other purpose it would serve was to continue the thematic trilogy begun in Curse of the 13th Ghost. Unlike Curse of the 13th Ghost, however, Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island would be considered an even bigger slap to the fandom's face by Warner Brothers. The movie premiered at San Diego Comic-Con on July 21st, 2019, with the digital release on September 3rd and the physical release on October 1st. It was written by Jeremy Adams and directed by Cecilia Aronovich Hamilton and Ethan Spalding. The credits start things off, more or less recapping the events of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island before we pick up with the gang running from a werewolf. I am not going to draw this out because ultimately it doesn't matter to the plot. This whole opening sequence is a dream Fred's having about having the Mystery Machine back, because this movie picks up where the last one left off, with the gang semi-retired and the Mystery Machine sold to someone else. And we also find that even when these movies have an explicit connection, they still can't keep what little continuity they have straight.
I've got an entire section on my big blog of mysteries called Unsolved Capers.
An unsolved cases file, huh, Velma? Really?
We've already closed all our cases and have absolutely no unfinished business.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god. Stop fucking lying.
Which, honestly, is just the beginning of the nonsense to follow. If Curse of the 13th Ghost made Velma insufferable because she kept making pronouncements about events she wasn't there for, this movie has the exact inverse problem, because if we are expected to take the events about to unfold as canonical to Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, and the movie clearly does, Velma keeps making pronouncements about events she was present for and witnessed for herself. So again, keep the following in mind as Velma keeps justifying her skepticism throughout this whole movie. Velma was there. Anyway, just because the gang are retired doesn't mean the mysteries have stopped, but Shaggy and Scooby aren't having any of it.
Well, we've had it up to here.
I guess we have used you as live bait a few times.
And because they promised no more mysteries before, the boys make Fred, Velma, and Daphne swear they're done with mystery solving for good unless they give them permission to break the promise. Just to underline things, the sheriff shows up and tells them that they ought to take a vacation, which is an idea the boys love. And then coincidence strikes in curvaceous form.
Congratulations to Shaggy Rogers.
We'll be seeing more of Elvira in another movie, don't worry. Not like that, you pervs. So the gang are off via a very familiar looking boat to their tropical island vacation, in an environment that looks nothing like the tropics. which Daphne hangs a lampshade on.
Why, I was about to try and solve the mystery of how all these trees in this tropical paradise don't look tropical at all.
Fred, Velma, and Daphne visit the captain of the boat for information on the island, and the captain outright states he's retiring because of the zombies, which triggers more lampshade hanging and more indicators that fans of the original Zombie Island are going to be sorely disappointed. The boat arrives at the island, and we immediately get our first idiot Fred moment of the movie.
Get out. Get out to you too.
Despite the Islanders explicitly telling Velma there's zombies around, the gang get into a van waiting for them and head for the hotel. Fred isn't crazy about how dull the van is, and Daphne and Velma find they suck at small talk and seem to have nothing else in common with each other except mystery solving. However, before the ennui can set in, a cat creature, hey, remember them? Causes a tree to fall across the road. Scooby spots it in the cloud of dust it kicked up, but it takes off. And when the rest of the gang take a look, the boys remind them of their promise. Although Fred can't help but notice one odd detail about the palm tree.
Trees fall all the time, even trees made out of plastic.
But when they go back to the van, they find something has slashed one of the tires, forcing the gang to hike to the hotel, which builds itself as the Moonscar Island Resort. This causes Daphne to question whether they've been here before, which leads to the obligatory flashback to the first movie, and the beginning of the bullshit retcons that were grafted onto this one.
Yeah, about that summer when I was working at that TV station for my school project.
Entering the hotel, they meet the manager, Alan, who has Shaggy sign the guest book, which has some pages conspicuously ripped out of it. Alan says it's because of moths and points out the security cameras which are everywhere and introduces his staff, which should look familiar to you by this point.
That's Jack, Linda, Mona, and Bug-Bite Stubbs.
After stuffing themselves silly, Alan suggests Shaggy and Scooby get a massage, where they're promptly attacked by zombies. Meanwhile, Alan shows the rest of the gang around, and Fred hears an engine coming from the garage, but before he can go inside, the boys collide with him. Fred, Velma, and Daphne continue to explain away everything in an effort to keep their promise, but Shaggy and Scooby go hide in a cabinet in the kitchen, wind up pressing a switch, and end up in the caves under the house, specifically at the altar of the cat god. Another zombie shows up and chases them deeper into the caves. Back at the hotel, the rest of the gang are looking for them, and Fred spots what appears to be the mystery machine driving by. The boys show up, and their story is confirmed when zombies come out of the swamp and start heading for the hotel. And finally, after almost 40 minutes of this idiotic plot point, Shaggy and Scooby nullify the promise so the gang can finally deal with the problem at hand. Which isn't actually a problem because Fred's trap actually works correctly for once, capturing the zombies. However, the cat creature that's been lurking around knocks over a candelabra, deliberately starting a fire, which sets off the sprinkler system and leads to the reveal.
Jack is a zombie? Mona? Linda?
And the solution includes another bullshit retcon.
There were pages ripped out of it. Pages that had the signatures of previous guests, including us.
Yes, this would make sense. If the house had been a hotel in the first movie, it was not. It was Simone and Lena's house, where they had lived ever since slaughtering Moonscar and his crew. The gang were invited to stay there that night to be their next victims. There was no guest book. So yeah, this is a movie Alan put together as the starter for a found footage franchise after seeing the Zombie Island case on Velma's blog. Oh, and Daphne's already way ahead of you.
The cat people disintegrated while the zombies went back to an eternal rest.
There's nothing about what you just said that sounds solved.
You were there, Velma! What was there left to solve? Okay. I'm fine. However, there are a couple of things about this mystery which aren't accounted for.
So you cut the tree down to block our way here.
No, actually. I don't know what that was.
Alan thought everything was going well, even finding Simone's cat pendant and thinking it was a good omen for the project. But of course, the gang has undermined everything. Or have they?
Don't cry, Alan. I mean, what you did was wrong, but we can still do the movie.
So, you would think this is the end, right? Yeah, it's still going on, so let's just kind of plow through this. Fred gets a surprise when stuntman Seaver shows up with a monster truck version of the Mystery Machine for the movie's big climax.
We're gonna jump this thing over the hotel while being chased by a zombie horde.
So, for the next little while, the movie spins its wheels while the gang helps Alan make his film, until things finally get going again when the cat creature tries to crush Alan with the chandelier. Fortunately for him, Scooby spots the rope fraying and manages to rescue him. Velma spots cat hair on the rope and rushes off to solve the mystery, and gets completely insufferable.
The cat people appeared and tried to suck our life force. There's no way they were real. It defies the laws of science.
You're making me mad! Yes,
fucking mad!
You know, I miss the days when Velma was written as someone who is perfectly willing to believe the supernatural could be real, but also acknowledging when things turned out to be fake. Sadly, it seems that's not going to happen anytime soon. If ever. So Velma rushes out into the swamp in search of the cat's creature and winds up pissing off every cat on the island, who then attack the gang and the film crew. And Alan acts like every single one of us who made the mistake of getting into online video in the first place.
I know I should be freaking out, but this is adding some serious production value to the picture.
Things go from bad to worse when 3 more cat people come out of the bushes to attack, causing everyone to make a break for the ferry. Unfortunately, because Alan's obsessed with finishing the movie, he sets the ferry on goddamn fire. Fred sees the stunt mystery machine on the ferry, and because Fred's an idiot, he leaps onto the burning boat and drives the van back onto the island. Everyone piles into the van, but not before one of the cat creatures makes a grab for the pendant around Alan's neck. Fred takes off, managing to scrape the cat creature strangling Alan off the welcome sign by the dock. As they try to get away, the original cat creature from the beginning of the movie rips open the roof, but Fred manages to throw it off. The cat creatures take out the bridge, pinning the gang between them and the river, which only offers one solution.
Looks like we're gonna have to jump!
The gang survives the jump, but then the movie decides to just follow up a van chase with a foot chase. Seriously. Following this nonsense, Shaggy and Scooby manage to get the 3 cat people wrapped up in the rug and out of the hotel. Except then they get menaced by the original one, who gets defeated by Slapstick.
Come on, guys.
Needing a place to hide, Scooby and Shaggy lead the gang back to the secret passage in the kitchen cupboard leading to the caves, and once again, Velma gets annoying.
Nothing ever felt right about our previous adventure, but I could never figure out why.
Now you must really shut the fuck up. Now, please, shut the fuck up.
Can this stupid movie be over now, please? Scooby falls into a hole, which turns out to be one of a ton of holes in the cave floor, which of course implies the cat people are looking for Morgan Moonscar's treasure. The question being, why? Velma examines the moon dial and says she thinks she knows what's going on and how to put a stop to everything.
The harvest moon has risen! That means we're all gonna turn into zombies!
This once, I think you're right.
Okay, we're finally in the last 10 minutes of this turkey, so let's get it over with. The cat people show up in the caves, conveniently find the pendant, put it on the altar, which reveals where Moonscar's treasure is buried. They dig it up and are immediately attacked by the gang, who have now become zombies. The zombie gang forces the cat creatures into the hole they just dug, leading to the second reveal. We don't really need to go into motivations here. They wanted the treasure, and Velma figured it out because these 3 were the only ones on the island not involved with the movie. The treasure was a fake, set up for the trap, somehow. And as for how they controlled the feral cats on the island,
The 4 of them used a cat whistle to guide them into doing their bidding.
4? There's only 3 of us.
and then the police show up, as do the cats who start digging up the ground.
The legend stated that the cats were the guardians of Moonscar's treasure.
No, it didn't, Velma. So yeah, the real treasure is found, Alan leaves with it, and Velma gets obnoxious again.
But the cat people from last time...
Must be the same people looking for the treasure this time.
Again, Velma was there. Velma's attitude and personality throughout this entire movie has no purpose but to basically spit in the face of the first movie and anyone who enjoyed it. Curse of the 13th Ghost has a similar problem, but in that case it's mitigated by the fact that Velma was not present in the series that movie purported to be a finale for, and as such, you can pretty much disregard her conclusions outright. But here it's just outright stupid and obnoxious since we know she was there, we know what she saw. Oh, and one more thing. I can't help but notice that Bo, you know, the undercover cop who was also present for everything in the first movie, is not only absent here, he doesn't even have a look-alike in the movie cast. I have more to say about this, but there's still a couple of minutes left. So, the gang recommits to mystery solving, the sheriff shows up to read them the riot act, and the girls guilt trip him into letting them solve mysteries again. The sheriff relents, but also gives them a warning.
There are a lot of people out there that won't take too kindly to you meddling in their business.
Understood.
Now, let me be absolutely clear if I haven't been already. Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island is awful. It requires the gang to be completely inactive for nearly half its runtime because of the stupid promise. Velma goes from obnoxious to outright unbearable. And there's a pointless bit of ambiguity about the original cat creature we saw, which is only there as a sop to anyone who might be upset about the retcons, but it comes off as insulting and half-assed rather than actually satisfying. And speaking of the retcons, they're here for no other reason except some higher-ups involved in the project felt acknowledging anything supernatural at all would be damaging to the brand. And maybe they could have gotten away with it, except, as I noted way the hell back when this idiotic quest of mine began, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island has never gone out of print or availability in the 25 years since its release, which means anyone could easily watch both these movies and see that most of the retcons here are either sloppy, lazy, or otherwise don't work at all. This movie wants to act like it works as a sequel to the original, but it doesn't. It just decides to go off and fix what it thinks are problems with the original movie, not fitting with what Scooby-Doo is allegedly supposed to be now. But if it has to do this much work to accomplish that, the production team would have been better off not even bothering. Some other reviews I've seen say this movie works if you take it strictly on its own and ignore that it's supposed to be a sequel to Zombie Island, but even that doesn't work. Once again, we have maybe 30 minutes of story stretched out to an hour and 20 with unsatisfying reveals and huge amounts of padding, which largely includes the entire first half of the movie. The jokes are dumb, the story is boring, and the only bright spot is the performances. This is not a slam against Kate Micucci here. It takes a very talented actor to get me to outright hate a character as much as I hate Velma in this movie. And trying to judge it on its own merits is undermined by the constant callbacks to Zombie Island, which are there for only a second or two before another idiotic retcon is brought in to explain it. If you enjoyed Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island at all and you somehow haven't seen this movie yet, don't! Nearly any other Scooby movie is more worthy of your time. I would rather recommend you watch Monster of Mexico than this one. At least there, the ridiculous nonsense isn't trying to fix something that wasn't broken in the first place. And with that, we can finally bury this pathetic excuse for one of the 30-plus films of Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
Ugh. 30 down. God only knows how many left to go. Ugh. All right, time to deal with you.